You won't believe what happened when Harvard scientists grew algae in Mars-like conditions. An international team of researchers from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and Harvard University have successfully managed to grow algae in an artificial Martian environment. The research was published in the journal PNAS on October 24, 2023. And we couldn't help but wonder if this is a sign that we might be able to grow food on Mars one day. Let's take a look at what happened when these scientists grew algae in a simulated Martian environment. Now, before we get into what the scientists actually did, let's look at why growing plants on Mars is so important. As you know, the planet Mars has been a hot topic in space exploration for some time now. It seems that everyone from NASA to Elon Musk to Jeff Bezos is vying for the chance to get there first, or perhaps even settle there one day. But while the red planet may be a great destination for human exploration, it's not exactly hospitable for human life right now. Sure, with a few modifications we could probably make it habitable, but it would take a lot of work and a lot of time. However, if we could find a way to grow plants on Mars, then we could potentially use them as a source of food for future astronauts. And if we could do that, then we wouldn't have to wait until the planet is fully habitable before sending humans there. We could essentially kill two birds with one stone by exploring Mars and providing sustenance for our explorers, all at the same time. So if you want to learn more about this exciting new development in space technology, keep reading. The researchers decided to investigate whether algae could survive and grow in a Martian environment by mimicking the planet's atmosphere, gravity, and temperature in a lab setting. They also wanted to find out if the algae could continue producing biomass after being exposed to UV radiation, which is abundant on Mars but not here on Earth. First, we placed samples of 3 different types of algae in chambers containing a simulated Martian atmosphere. The algae were then exposed to ultraviolet radiation for 16 hours per day at 6.5 millibars. This pressure is similar to that found at the surface of Mars, where the atmosphere is very thin compared to Earth's atmosphere. After 70 days, the researchers found that 2 of the 3 species had survived and were able to reproduce. One species actually doubled its biomass during the experiment, which suggests that algae could potentially be used as a sustainable food source on Mars. Now you may be wondering why they chose to use algae in the first place. Well, algae are simple organisms that can survive in a wide range of environments. They also grow quickly and require very little energy to sustain themselves. This makes them ideal candidates for use in space exploration because they can survive the harsh conditions of space travel and can provide a reliable source of nutrition for astronauts. In addition to their hardiness and fast growth, algae also offer a number of potential benefits over other types of plants. For example, they do unwire soil to grow, and they can convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and biomass through photosynthesis. This means that they could potentially be used to recycle air and water on a spacecraft, which would be an invaluable capability for long-duration missions. Additionally, algae are a rich source of protein and other nutrients that astronauts would need to stay healthy during space travel. Overall, the researchers believe that their study provides an important proof of concept for the use of algae in future Martian habitats. While there is still much work to be done, the researchers are optimistic that their findings will pave the way for the use of algae as a sustainable and nutritious food source for astronauts on Mars. The next step in this process is to grow higher plants in simulated Martian conditions and see how they fare. If the plants can survive and thrive, then it would be a major breakthrough for space exploration and could potentially pave the way for human settlements on Mars. Just imagine the possibilities. With enough plants growing on Mars, we could send astronauts there with the knowledge that they would have a reliable source of fresh food available to them. No more freeze-dried meals or nutrient bars. Imagine the taste of a juicy tomato grown on Mars. It would be a real morale booster for the astronauts and would make living on Mars much more comfortable. Plants could also help to make Mars feel more like home. Imagine walking through a field of Martian-grown wheat or taking a break under a tree that sprouted from the red planet's soil. It would be an amazing experience. But how does this experiment relate to real-world applications? How can we put it to good use? To start, we could use this knowledge to develop better ways to grow plants in extreme environments. This could be useful for growing crops in places where traditional farming methods don't work, such as in deserts or areas with poor soil quality. By understanding how plants can grow on Mars, we could learn how to better protect our own crops here on Earth from damage due to environmental factors such as UV radiation and lack of atmosphere. Additionally, this research could help us develop new technologies for growing plants in space, such as hydroponic or aeroponic systems that could be used on future missions to Mars. These systems could provide astronauts with fresh food during long space flights, reducing the need to rely on prepackaged meals. Ultimately, this research has implications that go beyond just growing plants on Mars. By understanding how life can thrive in seemingly inhospitable environments, we can learn to appreciate the incredible adaptability of living things and the potential for life to flourish even in the most extreme conditions. The idea of growing plants on Mars isn't as far-fetched as you might think. In fact, there are already a number of experiments underway to test the feasibility of doing just that. For example, NASA has a project called the Veggie, which stands for the Vegetable Production System. It's basically a mini farm in space that can grow plants in a variety of conditions, including simulated Martian conditions. So far, the Veggie has successfully grown a number of plants, including lettuce, spinach, and even tomatoes. There's another experiment called the Mars Simulation Experiment with Algae or Sega, which is currently underway at the University of Florida. As the name suggests, this experiment involves growing algae in simulated Martian conditions to see how well it can survive and reproduce. Algae are a type of plant that doesn't require soil to grow and can convert carbon dioxide and water into oxygen and biomass through photosynthesis. This makes them an ideal candidate for use in space exploration because they can survive the harsh conditions of space travel and can provide a reliable source of nutrition for astronauts. The results of the Sega experiment are not yet available, but they should provide valuable insights into the potential for growing plants on Mars. In addition to these experiments, there are also a number of companies that are working on developing closed-loop life support systems that can sustain humans on Mars by recycling air, water, and waste products. These systems would rely on plants such as algae to remove carbon dioxide from the air and produce oxygen and food for humans to consume. While the idea of growing plants on Mars may seem like science fiction, it's really just a matter of time before it becomes a reality. With the right technology and know-how, we could have astronauts growing fresh food on Mars within our lifetime. Of course, there are still many challenges to overcome. Growing plants on Mars will require us to develop new technologies for things like growing plants in low-gravity conditions, protecting plants from harmful cosmic radiation, and recycling resources efficiently. But these are not insurmountable challenges, and the potential rewards are simply too great to ignore. The ability to grow plants on Mars would open up a whole new world of possibilities for humanity. It would allow us to explore and settle on other planets in ways that we never have before. It would also provide us with a new source of food and resources that could help sustain our growing population. The potential benefits of growing plants on Mars are simply too great to ignore. With continued research and technological advancements, it may not be long before we see astronauts planting the first crops on the red planet. What do you think? Is growing plants on Mars a worthwhile endeavor? Or are there more pressing issues that we should focus on first? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more updates on all things science and technology. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.